Hi guys, and welcome to episode number 40. Fucking hell, eh?
We're here.
40 episodes.
4-0.
Feels like it's gone quite quick. What does that mean? 12 weeks into the year. It must have started it in March.
I can say you need some fast maths for you there, mate.
Yeah.
Be
quick
careful
maths.
with that.
Quick maths. Must have started
I fucking hate
in
doing quick
March.
maths.
Something like that.
It's the pressure, isn't it? It's the pressure of quick maths.
I'm still wrong as well.
Yeah,
no, I reckon I'm about right.
Yeah.
So yeah, March. I'm still enjoying it?
I'm really enjoying it. I'm not just saying that. I'm going to talk today about the subject we're linking today.
Accidental segue, actually.
That's a segue. But no, I am really enjoying it for a host of reasons that I might share today. But yeah, mate, it's been great. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm alright,
back
mate.
in today.
I'm alright. I'm enjoying the World Cup.
Yes, World Cup season, isn't it?
Fucking coming home.
Yeah.
Who would have
coming
thought
home for
it?
Christmas?
It's coming home, yeah.
That's a new song, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, but they've got it's coming home for Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, they've done a new one because there is a song
Apparently.
called "It's Coming Home for Christmas." That's Chris.
Oh, that yeah. I think this is the football version.
I nearly started singing there.
Careful, mate.
Yeah.
All right, all that those few listeners we have.
Catchy.
Let's not put them on.
No, I might sing on the last one before Christmas.
Can you sing?
No.
No.
Like,
as in, like,
well,
no.
can I? Yes.
Yeah,
Is it any good? No.
No, it's bad.
No. You know, in your own moments, you think some notes I hit. Every now and then I hit a note, and I'm just like, fucking
Do you think,
hell.
like in your own moment, you think,
No, every now and then.
shit, if I was in Pop Idol now, or whatever.
Every now and then I'll be messing around.
Simon Cowell would love this.
And Becky's like, that actually, like, there's one note, like in the whole thing, there's one note. I was like, there's something in there.
If Becky, like, that one note didn't sound shit.
No, yeah, it was good.
Oh, good. Fucking hell, mate, you played the pressure on, haven't you?
I don't know what the note is though.
Karaoke?
No, I'm
Did
not.
you get karaoke?
I did karaoke for one of my mates' birthdays. Actually, that's actually quite good fun once everyone starts just jumping in and singing. Got to pick the right songs though. Oasis, something like that.
Oasis, yeah.
Get stuck in.
Bit Wonderwall.
Well, nothing that takes too much technique. You know, like fucking Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston coming on.
Trying to really get your vocal cords into a different place where I don't want to go to.
I don't know how we got here,
fun.
but that's yeah. Anyway, Christmas football. So yeah, it's the weekend before. So there's football on all the fucking time.
Come on, England.
Yeah, hopefully, big game tomorrow, mate.
Yeah.
Should we just break down football?
We could just talk about
half the
football.
fucking pundits,
We could do all right.
Yeah.
If you want a football podcast, let us know. We're more than happy to do
did the
that.
Peter Crouch beer football podcast.
Yeah, well, we had a beer at last week's podcast, didn't we? Well, after it, which was quite nice, wasn't it? In London.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy London last week?
Yeah, I did enjoy London last week. So went up to see, if you haven't heard it, went up to see Sam Davis. It was very enjoyable actually the whole day, wasn't it? Went for a beer afterwards and we did, over a beer, we did like a promotional video.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think over our second beer.
To be honest with you, it was the best recording we've ever done.
I think it was.
I think going forward, I think to have a couple of pints before anything ever gets filmed again.
What, anything?
Anything, mate. Just give me
now.
Yeah, I might have a couple of pints during the day.
But
because it was a nice environment, wasn't it? A couple
was.
of pints, we were relaxed, and it was nice just to talk a little bit more about the podcast.
Well, that vlog, Eddie said, the vlog should be here pretty soon. So not necessarily the podcast, we'll put that out in a couple of weeks.
So can people listen to that on YouTube at some point? I know they can't right now,
well,
but when they listen to this,
I try to upload.
What do they do? Just type in PT Education.
Type in PT Education on YouTube,
and hopefully you'll be able to see the vlog. Of London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't got it yet, but that's where I'm going to put it. But I'm going to put it on Instagram as well. But the problem is, I tried to upload episode 37 on YouTube.
It's just interesting, mate. Will people give a shit about what you just about to say?
I can't fucking. It said the file was an hour and 15. And it said the file was too big. And I was like, well, it's not, because people put fucking hours worth of content.
Do people give a shit about this, mate?
Yeah, because they're waiting.
Oh, they're waiting.
Yeah,
right.
They're waiting for the YouTube.
There's relevance to your...
I have to talk about Eddie about it. So, Eddie has to take us through everything, doesn't he?
We have a technical man.
Yeah.
Because me and Dan, you probably picked up, have shit technical skills. We are skilled in some areas of life.
Yeah.
But not when it comes to lots of areas. Multiple amount of areas. But when it comes to technology, it's never been something that's floated my boat, if I'm honest.
The trouble is, Eddie's done his bit. He's fucking cut the video. He's done the sound. He's sent it over in high resolution. I've set up the YouTube channel. All I have to do is upload it, and I failed. And I don't know why.
I don't know why I failed again every time.
So we've got shitloads of content.
But we have zero patience as well. That's my issue. Yeah. I think you're on the similar camp to me. My patience for technology, if it doesn't work within about 10 seconds, I'm like, shit.
Last Thursday, yours,
with it.
What was that? We were sat around the laptop and it took a while to load. Me and you sat a bit like this and you could just feel the tension changing. Only about 30 seconds, wasn't it? And it was just like 10 seconds and 15 seconds. You just start to feel the tension. It's like...
Oh, mate, I don't know why. Technology is one thing. I can have patience with like people and clients, but technology, anything like that, if I was like trying to fix something as well, like IKEA furniture, I had no patience for it. Like literally anything that took me a little bit longer than it should do, I felt my temper go. It's a weakness of mine and my character trait. I'm aware of it. Whether or not I'll be able to change it, I don't know.
I actually,
but I've got hands up to it.
I actually don't mind IKEA furniture because it's like systematic. As long as I've got the time. The trouble is, I get frustrated. And it's probably true of most things when you don't know what you're doing as well because you have no answers. It's like if I think back to early in my coaching career when I didn't have that many coaching cues, and I always think of one person. Like literally, in my first session, I was trying to teach them the hip hinge, and I had no coaching cues because, of course, everyone on my course could do it. So I programmed in on my assessment or whatever an RDL, and whoever I was with knew what I was talking about, and they did it because they're on the same course as me. Now, the first time that a client couldn't do it, I had no tools, so I'm getting frustrated and annoyed. I thought I was annoyed with them, but in reality, it was me. It was my own frustration not being able to correct that. So it's probably that. I'm sat here. If it doesn't go right first time with technology, I have no other answers apart from turn it off and on.
Yeah, I remember when I started PTing, and even now you can still get frustrated with people, can't you? And you've got to go, that's my emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my shit I've got to work through. It's not my client's fault that I'm getting a bit frustrated or I'm struggling with my patience. Let's think about a different coaching
exactly.
or think about a different way of communicating. But if we don't have those skills, we can just have a wall of, I'm frustrated, you aren't getting it, it's your fault, you're not understanding it and getting it. And that's what, I remember my dad used to be like that. If I couldn't understand what he was saying first time round, and he was a shit communicator, it was my fault.
Yeah.
It's your fault you can't understand. I was like, is it, Dad?
Yeah.
In fact, no, it's probably your fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's really been that awareness of actually, us as educators and coaches, we're responsible for A, our own emotions, and B, trying to help other people learn. And if they're struggling to learn, that's our responsibility to find a different path.
It is. It's always your responsibility as the coach or the educator. If they don't understand it, then it's your responsibility to find another way of explaining it so they do understand it.
Otherwise, it's a cop-out, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit like going, well, they didn't learn it, that's their fault. You're like, well, no, you could have found a better way around it. And it's difficult if you're coaching a group of people or you're teaching a group of people. And you can only do so much, but it's important to try and be open and honest and go, look, I get that everyone listening to me might not get my communication or might not quite understand what I'm saying. I can explain it hopefully in different ways so people can understand. And we've kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but for personal trainers, we need to have a bit of humility to go, our style of coaching, we mentioned this before the podcast, might not suit everyone. It might not.
No.
We all have different ways of doing things, and sometimes maybe it's our ego thinking, well, this is the way that I do it, and if people don't get on board with it, that's their fault. No, not everyone's going to like us, not everyone's going to get on with our style, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I think as a general population coach, you're going to need to be able to adapt more than, say, if someone's doing something competitively, it might have to be more rigid. Or if it's a short timeline. But I think one of the things as a general population coach, you're going to have to be more adaptable. That still doesn't mean you're going to work for everyone.
No.
But you're going to need to be more adaptable, maybe in some of your approaches, maybe definitely the way you communicate with people. You are going to have to be able to change it up, go from 100 mile an hour for someone, maybe slow it right down for someone else, maybe be a bit more, stern's the wrong word, but maybe be sometimes more of giving information, other times trying to draw information. It all depends, doesn't it? And the more experience you get at working with people, because the other thing is that on a day, if you're a day one PT, you're not going to be a very good PT. Just is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure a day one anything, you're not going to be very good at it.
You might be quite young.
You've got to develop, haven't you, over a period of time. You've got to work with people, and you've got to fuck up, and then think, that wasn't right for that client, and then you learn from the next one. And so, you're not going to be a good PT. Well, we're all striving to be better PTs every day, aren't we? Really, but you're not going to be. If you're in a day one situation, you're not going to be particularly good. It's just doing the best you can with the knowledge you have in the moment, and then trying to grow from there, isn't it?
Yeah, and what I wasn't trying to say before was, then I'm like, well, if people don't get on with me, then I'm not going to grow and develop.
No.
I always want to grow and develop and have the humility to go, don't have all the answers, and not everyone will get on board with maybe how I do things. That's part of being human. Not everyone's gonna like us, but it doesn't mean that's like, well, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Sort of that rigid thinking of, well, if you don't get on board with it, I'm just being me. Like, we've got to be open-minded enough to take on feedback from the environment. And maybe if lots of our clients are struggling, like we said a minute ago, we put the lens back on ourselves. Hopefully it doesn't sound too contradictory. Hopefully that kind of makes sense.
Most good points are contradictory, mate.
sometimes it can the personal development world does come across a bit. There's a bit of a paradox in it, really. But for change, we need stability. For example,
which we're going to get to in a minute about purpose and goal setting, which is going to be today's podcast. And like you said, there's always a contradiction there, isn't it? And it's knowing, really, it's a spectrum. And it's everything was almost a spectrum, and it's knowing at any point where you're going to push and pull that needle to in that moment for the person. Sometimes you're going to need to push it up to a bit more. Very rarely a dictator, I'd imagine, unless you're really coaching someone at a high level and there is no options, you've got to get the shit done, right the way down to sort of being far more understanding. But normally, even within one person, one client, there'll be different times you need to move that needle up and down a little bit, change what you're doing.
And even when you're going high level, I think the high level coaches that I know, I think they have certain ways of doing things, but they're good at building relationships. Like Callum, for example, is great at building relationships. He does it at an elite level. So if he can do it at an elite level, surely we can do it at a general population level. But maybe it's a skill set thing and a self-awareness thing as to why we might struggle as coaches to... That's relationship building, isn't it, again, I suppose?
But with the relationship building... And some people want to just be told what to do. I was talking to someone the other day and they just wanted to be told what to do. And that's fine. I mean, there's an issue with just being told things. And I've learned this a lot from yourself and also Michael, in that if you're told something without any understanding of what's behind that actually makes it very difficult moving forward, because then you just have like this sound bite of knowledge that if you start to pick away at, doesn't get you very far. If you understand where that thought comes from, so you understand the philosophy and the foundational knowledge behind that, it allows you to think for yourself. Now, most people we find, especially in this, they don't want to think, they just want to be told. But that will leave gaps in the knowledge. I used to just want to be told. And it was, because it's easy, right? You tell me, I'll take that as fact. This is how it is. Zero thought, zero brain engagement, zero thought. But you start to realise, and with Michael especially, he wants to give you these tools, but then he wants you to explore. And the reason that is that he wants you to understand how he's got to that answer, so that when you're in a position where you're looking at a different client, you understand the reasoning process, which allows you to apply it, because it might be a different outcome, but you understand the philosophy behind it. But that means you need to engage thought.
Yeah, I mean, you're alluding to sort of Michael Gordon and the mechanic stuff there, aren't you? And that's
but think about it across the board.
Key philosophy that you mentioned. But I do think that links into today's podcast.
It does.
Because finding your purpose, understanding yourself takes energy, effort. You've got to think quite hard. And if you don't think quite hard about yourself and who you want to be as a person, who you want to be as a coach, where you want to go, you will inevitably just be led. You will inevitably just go down the path of least resistance and just do what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And we're quite fortunate that we get to chat and mentor quite a few trainers currently and throughout the years. And what we try and do this podcast is try and listen all the time into what we hear in our environment. And something that we've both seen on social media and in the PT world is people may be getting led down certain paths that maybe aren't right for them. Maybe they're not on their purpose. Maybe they're not aligned with what they really want and what's in line with them as a person. They're being led down a path that isn't right. And what we have seen, and I've definitely seen, I think you would agree in this, is when you do that, you lack fulfillment, you lack meaning. And then when you're on that wrong path and something doesn't go quite right with it, or you've completed it and reached that goal, you're then like, what do I do now? I've now reached the end destination. Because there isn't a purpose, there isn't a philosophy or a value you're aligned with. It's a certain destination and goal that I'm doing because other people are. You're not fulfilled by it. And if you do get there, if you do get a sense of satisfaction, it's very short-lived, and then you're back to feeling lost again. Is that something you can agree with?
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things where you on a more global scale, you see it with sort of fashions or fads within the industry, right? So you see a lot of people go into, say, one sort of training or a nutritional thought or whatever that current thing is, and then all of a sudden there's something else and off everyone goes again. And it's like, sometimes that can be useful and you can pick up different things, but I think when you find what you really enjoy and what you really find fulfilling, you get less pulled from pillar to post. And all of a sudden, I mentioned it a few weeks ago, whatever the current fad was whatever everyone should be doing, and that's just not the case. Sometimes it is nice to change your training and some different stuff comes in. You try some new stuff or a new way of thinking, and you can draw some bits out of that and you can add it to your repertoire of things to do. That's really cool. But to just be dragged along, and I think the thing that frustrates me is when the fad moves on or the fashion moves on, and then people write off whatever came before it. So that thing that they did for the last 5 years that they thought was the nuts, no, they moved on to something else now. That was bollocks. Shouldn't be doing that. I've met lots of trainers like that over the years, and I was like that early in my career. Where in actual fact, now I have a way of training people and a philosophy, and I really enjoy, say, the mechanic side of things. It really resonates with me. It really gives me passion about my sessions and also gives me a clear thought process. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to draw things from other people and think, oh, that's really cool, I'm going to have a bit of that. But hopefully what I'm doing is I'm drawing out experiences and other things, but adding it onto something that I'm really passionate about and feel fulfilled by when I apply it to my clients, and not get now dragged along, but appreciate different movements. But if you're going from one thing to the other, I think my biggest point within that ramble was, just because things have moved on, don't write off everything that came before it or stuff that you thought was really good before. You can update your knowledge without having to fucking rewrite the whole thing.
I think it's being able to see the strengths and the weaknesses in everything.
Yeah.
In what you're currently doing and what you previously have done. It's quite easy to look back in hindsight and go, that was all great or that was all shit. You're like, no, there was good things about it, and there were things that you've developed your thought process on and changed your opinion on. And guess what? Right now you haven't got all the answers, and it's having that humility to go, in 3 or 4 years' time, I might see what I'm currently doing in a different lens, and hopefully I will a little bit, because that means that I've grown and developed. If I hold on so tightly to my beliefs right now, I'm so rigid with them, then what happens when information changes or my perspective changes? I'm like, well, I've been telling everyone this is the way to do it, we all need to do it like this. I put myself in a real tight pigeonhole. People have done that with nutrition, haven't they? We've seen people do it with, I don't know, like low carb, for example, whatever. Be so tight into that, then when new evidence and new science or a more up-to-date way of thinking comes out, what do? It's a difficult place to be. And rather than, this is what I believe, but I'm open-minded that my beliefs might change a little bit. I'm not holding it with 100% conviction. I might be 80%, but I'm able to play about with a 20% possibility that actually there's other perspectives, there's other ways of doing things. And I think that's a really healthy way to grow and develop. Everything we think we know, maybe we don't know it as convincingly as we think we do. This is just based upon our current thought process. And if we have a lens now. If we went back if we view ourselves from 10 years ago, we're like, we'll do lots of things different. Well, in 10 years' time, we might think the same about now. And that's okay. It's just it's remembering that, I think, sometimes with our beliefs.
It's being open-minded, not too dogmatic now, isn't it? Because it just makes it, as you said, it just makes it harder to come back later. Because if you've been banging a drum that it's the absolute answer, and then all of a sudden the way that we understand things changes, it moves on, things develop, more research comes out, and you're stuck there, you end up getting more dogmatic, and either you have to hold your hands up or dig your heels in even more.
Yeah.
And that's when issues can arise, because you become more and more defensive over your stance. Where everything we ever think is based on what we have at our disposal in the moment, isn't it? And that's going to change as we go forward. As the old saying goes, at one time, all the greatest minds in the world thought the earth was flat. Funnily enough, people don't actually use that enough as remembering what that actually means. What it means is they were so certain, all the greatest minds were so certain, and then realised they were wrong. That's a metaphor for saying that can happen again. But for some reason, we forget what that actually means.
We think we found the answer.
They think it's just the fact that, we thought the earth was flat, and it's not, unless you come from that group of people that think it is. But it's forget the specificity of the statement. It's the metaphor of it. It's saying, if at one time all the greatest minds thought this and they were wrong, that can happen again and again and again. So it's being open-minded enough to understand this is the best to our knowledge now, and if that adapts and changes, we'll adapt and change with it. But at any one time, if you're saying that, you're doing the job to the best of your ability based under the current conditions. And that's the important thing, right?
It is, mate. Yeah, and I think it's just so important for all of our growth and development. And I like that metaphor as well. I might steal that.
Yeah, it's one of those that people say a lot.
Yeah,
but they've missed what the meaning is, because they just think, well, people thought the earth was flat. It's like, yeah, but that's the point. It's that they were wrong, apparently. No, I'm not a flat earther. And so they were wrong. The earth is not flat, and So if all the greatest minds thought that and got that wrong, well then of course we can get stuff wrong, and we can get stuff wrong all the time.
And we are currently getting stuff wrong.
Of course.
Like we all have belief systems right now that aren't right. And
it's a hard bit of pill to swallow, that, isn't it?
Hard to
go, guess what? To swallow.
Guess what? What if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
If you start off with everything, what if I'm wrong, rather than what if I'm right, you're far more open-minded to go, this is what I believe, but what if I'm wrong? Or how would an intelligent person argue with me now about what I think's really factual?
Yeah.
I'm so tired of this. You're like, oh, James, it's not 100% fact. How do you know things won't change? And in my personal development course, I've got a whole section on beliefs, so I'm quite passionate about it, because I think it's a very healthy way to view ourselves and view the world, is by acknowledging that we don't have all the answers and we have to be able to entertain other perspectives, and that way we can grow and develop more. And I know when my growth has stalled, that's because I've been very ingrained in my beliefs about who I am, how good I am, etc., etc. And once I've gone, well, maybe I'm not as good a trainer as I think I am. Not in a way to lower my self-worth or self-esteem, just to go, why am I giving myself such a narrative that I am better than everyone else or whatever? Am I being a bit egotistical? Is it a bit of narcissism coming in? You said about spectrums. It's not like you're narcissistic or you're not. It's just a spectrum, and we're somewhere on it. And at times we might creep up a few levels and go, I'm not better than anyone else, and just to remember that and then adjust your actions and behaviours.
That's where I've mentioned this loads of times on the podcast before, that's where courses are brilliant, because you meet other people on the same journey and you realise there's loads of other people that more experienced, less experienced, got more knowledge, got less knowledge, got more experience, got less experience, and you're all coming together and just wanting to learn and progress. And it gets you out of your bubble of creating this little group in a town. We live in a town, so you create this little thing like, fucking hell, it's a hotbed of great trainers around here. It's like, well, I'm fucking sure if I went on to London or anywhere else, there'd be some really good trainers there as well. So it's that getting you outside your comfort zone and meeting new people is the best thing. Not Instagram, because most of that's bullshit. So it's actually getting and meeting people, and really that I think is a great way of grounding you, but in a really positive way, and meeting other people that are on the same journey. I
think on that as well, we get drawn to certainty though, don't we? Yeah. As human beings, we love people who give us a certain answer. If that person seems confident and so certain, we get drawn and influenced by those people. And I've been fortunate enough to surround myself by educators who are far more knowledgeable and intelligent than me, but also entertain the fact that they haven't got all the answers and there are other perspectives and people might debate this. I like that, and that shows a bit of humility. I think maybe now I might have a red flag in my head when someone is saying, or they come across so confident and so certain that their perspective can't be challenged. That maybe might put a little alarm bell in my head to go, okay, well, maybe that's not the healthiest way to think about things, but we will be drawn to it. And the reason that you and me want to talk about purpose today and values and making the right decisions is because social media or the gym you work at or whatever, it's very easy to be attracted to people who have certain rigid answers, because it makes us feel really comfortable that there is a certain answer. As human beings, we have to develop the skill of negotiating uncertainty, because life is just not certain. Human beings aren't certain, but it's very uncomfortable. So it's quite easy for us to go, they're going to give me some certain answers. Dan, if you can just tell me what to do, it's going to make me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, it's. Do you want to take this down the client's route or coach's route in terms of purpose? Coaches?
I think coaches. Yeah, I think it's really important. I think there's some sort of goals to be drawn out of understanding. Again, we're going to scrape the surface with it because purpose is quite a big subject, but where do you want to start it?
So if we're going in purpose in terms of maybe why would you get into the industry? Funny enough, one of the podcasts I was going to suggest is actually, I can't remember, I was talking to one of the trainers in the studio actually with regards to like why we both enjoy being a PT so much. And of course it was the underlying foundation of it was purpose. But if we come to purpose into why you want to get into the industry in the first place, I think a lot of people get into the industry because first of all they think they can earn a lot of money. But if you come into it because actually you really enjoy fitness, it's a passion of yours and you enjoy helping others, because that's actually what I didn't know my purpose before I came in. I realised my purpose as I've worked through. It's something that you gain with experience. And a couple of things that I really enjoy, probably the most important thing, is other people succeed. Actually, it's far more rewarding than me succeeding. It's a weird, when you see someone's face light up, because they've achieved whatever their goal is. That could be, an end product of a gaining phase, or quite often, especially job population, people losing weight, or maybe setting an exercise that they felt they weren't very good at and they overcame. They had a client who'd been injured doing an RDL and hadn't been able to do it for years, but really wanted to do it. So it's a little small thing, but meant a lot to her. Or someone losing weight is quite a big one, isn't it? And they really start to make some progress, and you really see them light up, and you see their confidence build as they start to achieve things. That's really one of the things that gives me purpose now with coaching. And with tutoring, you can do the same thing. It's people realising their own potential and what they have the capability of doing. And when they see it through results, and I know this is a question you're going to ask later with regards to purpose, is worth more than money. Because in that moment, you don't care how much they're paying you. As someone's face lights up because they've achieved something they set out, you can't buy that. And so actually that's one thing that for me, that gives me more purpose within my job. Or overcoming injury or pain or surgery. I'm going to put that down as well. What about you?
So I think understanding purpose, first of all, is that we probably need to have quite a few different types of purpose in life.
Yeah.
I think if you just have one, let's say, for example, my purpose is to be a good coach.
Almost like an identity and just one part
And then once that coaching goes away or something happens or I got injured and I couldn't coach in the same way, then my life can feel really empty. So it's healthy to probably have quite a few different areas of our life that give us purpose, meaning and fulfillment. And to navigate it, sometimes it's asking, what do you really care about? And they're not always haven't got to be something really grand, like saving the planet. It could be something really small. And if you just get a bit of paper out and you just write a big list of all the things that you care about, small, medium, large, whatever they could be, just in your life. And then you can start to sort of see, are there certain trends? Is it more about, is your career seems to be more of a trend? Is it more relationships and family? Is it more health and well-being? Is it more being more creative? Whatever, you can draw them out. And then you can think, there's a thing that I'm really valuing my health here. Okay, right. Now then, what does that look like to you? What does that really give you? So if health might mean to me, one layer of that would be, right, I want to exercise. Why do I want to exercise? Because it gives me energy. Okay, why do you want to have more energy? Because I can be able to offer more value. Okay, why is that important to you? Because if I offer more value, it gives me a feeling of confidence. What I've done there by asking those whys is get to a foundational emotional need behind the value and behind the purpose. That all sounds a bit long-winded, but we're just asking, why is this important? Is there a healthy reason for it? Is there an unhealthy reason? Someone might go, you know what, Dan, I value this because I want to earn more money. I'm not going to say that statement's good or bad. I just want to understand, why do you want to earn more money? And you might go, actually because I want to be able to have a bigger house. Well, why? Because I want to be able to give my partner a bigger life. Okay, and we just go to, that gives you fulfillment. So actually, do you see what I mean? So we're just understanding the deeper layers behind it rather than the surface level action. So it's really key to understand what's important to you. But the point I'm trying to make is, why is that thing important to you? And navigate that a little bit and start to understand yourself. It's what's driving the behaviour. And we're going to chat later on about maybe often in times our behaviours are being drawn down a certain path that isn't to do with value, it's more to do with validation, but I'll leave that for the time being.
Well, actually, I was just going to say, what I was going to say was, what if the answer was, because I want to look like I'm successful? I want to give the impression I'm successful. So then what you've got is that external validation.
Why do you want to look like you're successful?
Why do you want to look like you're successful?
Yeah.
Why do you want to buy certain things? And why do you want to give the impression that you have all the answers, that you're successful? Is looking successful more important than understanding what successful is to you?
Yeah, I mean, what we've got here is, you have gone down the
gone down a rabbit hole.
Well, yeah, but you've gone down the validation path, actually. And these are really good questions to ask yourself before you do a certain action or behaviour. And it's, have I written down the questions? But I've got them in my head anyway.
Fucked it.
It's fucked. It's fucked, I haven't got the questions. But one was, if you weren't getting paid for this, would you do it?
Yeah.
If you didn't get any validation or fame from this, would you do it?
Yeah.
And if you had all the money in the world, would you still do it? Because often people might do things because of the money or because they want to get validation. Social media might be a really easy example.
I was literally just about to say.
That's a really easy one, isn't it? Like, why, just before you post something...
What if you've got no likes?
Yeah, exactly. Would you
do it again?
Would you still do it?
Yeah.
And it's a great thing to question because you're like, oh, maybe I'm doing this just to get attention.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, likes are bad or wrong, but it's really key to question your behaviours. That's what this big theme of today's podcast is about. Stop, question, and go, is this purposeful to me? Is this meaningful? Does this mean something? Do I care about this? Or am I just doing it because I want other people to see me in a certain light? I want other people to tell me that I'm good. I want other people to recognise me. If you do, that's more external stuff. And really where we're going with this is thinking about that internal driver, that internal motivator that can really drive us forwards.
We're just putting the camera back on. I think it's such an important thing because people get dragged down into things that maybe aren't necessarily what they want or isn't their purpose, and they get dragged along into something that isn't that fulfilling to them, but maybe in that moment feels fulfilling because they fit in. So they
comfortable,
right?
Isn't it?
So you fit in.
Let's be honest with that.
There's lots of people around you doing the same thing. It's like, well, if I jump in there, I'm creating this little tribe. I'm part of this little tribe, and maybe actually it doesn't mean that much to you. It's not necessarily the route you want to go down, but you get dragged down into there. But that can be incredibly unfulfilling. And then afterwards, you end up searching again. Maybe you get dragged into either a person or a group's way of thinking that maybe doesn't fully align with yours. Which if you're not clear on your purpose or never really given it much thought, it's probably easier to get dragged into than if you've actually really given it some time and effort to really think about what's important to you.
Because think about it like this, as human beings, we like to be part of tribes.
Yeah.
It gives us safety, it gives us security, and if we can be like other people, we can be in this safe environment to go and do something. But primarily, we have the safety needs met. Everyone listening to this podcast, I'm sure, has had enough water, has got shelter, food, has got those foundational needs.
Yeah.
So actually, these emotional reactions aren't life or death. But our emotional brain doesn't know this. So if we are left out of a tribe, emotionally, we think that's threatening to our livelihood, literally. Yeah. So it's a very powerful emotional driver to get us to fit in with other people. What we need to remember is that doing something meaningful and purposeful isn't always comfortable. You can feel quite isolated. You might feel maybe a bit lonely at first. It might just be quite uncomfortable to go and do something that's really in line with what you want. It might mean changing a relationship. It might mean changing careers. It might mean changing environments. That's difficult. It might be changing some sort of behaviours. That's not easy to do. So it does take a brave person to ask yourself these questions and then act in line with it. And we're all navigating this stuff and we're all making little mistakes and we're all being influenced in ways that we don't know. We all have blind spots, me included. But if I can stay on top of this and ask myself some questions on how do I feel this week's gone? Am I acting in line with my purpose, or am I just going down a path because I think I should or because I want to get validated by other people? So thinking about this podcast, I'm here because this links into a lot of my purpose and my values of learning. So I learn and I get to pass on information. I get to educate other people. I get to move my career down a meaningful path that's in line with mindset and psychology and all these things that bring me a lot of personal meaning and fulfillment. It's not easy. It's not always easy to do those things because you've got to be committed. You've got to do things you don't always want to do. You've got to be in a world that is quite kind of tunnel vision at times.
Yeah. Rather
than being easily drawn down paths, which I know you were saying earlier, but I'm highlighting how difficult that can be.
Yeah. It's the first bit there, we were talking about goal setting, and I saw a coach on social media the other day that was incredibly proud that they'd forced someone into a photo shoot. That's the way I read it, because it wasn't the person's goal at all, but they got them to do it. And I suppose I looked at this in two ways. I don't know what the client actually in the end thought, because that's the problem there. I forced someone in. Well, forcing someone in isn't necessarily something they didn't use that terminology. That's the way I interpreted it. It was very much taking credit for someone having done something and really sort of pushed them into it. But I suppose in some instances you could have that one or two ways, right? So the first way is you're forcing someone to do something they don't want to do, and then almost judging them if they don't want to do it, and then setting the program up or whatever it is around getting this to do is to do a photo shoot. But then I suppose on the other set of hands, if then that person actually didn't want to do it, slightly got forced into it or coerced into it, but then actually was really happy post that someone had sort of pushed them outside their comfort zone. I suppose that's a difficult one to come up with, isn't it? Because I would never want to push someone or coerce someone into setting a goal that wasn't theirs. But you might have an outcome where afterwards someone's like, actually, I'm really glad that you put a bit of pressure on me today. I've really enjoyed it and you've unlocked something in me. Just to play devil's advocate for both sides, what do you think about that? In terms of, would you ever want to coerce someone into doing something that wasn't their goal but you think they should do?
No.
Even if the outcome was positive?
But yeah, I mean, what's positive outcome? A positive outcome is that if you achieve something difficult.
Yeah.
Great, when you can achieve something difficult, it might not give you that much fulfillment long term. It might feel great in the moment.
Yeah.
And it might make everyone feel happy in the moment. But if you push someone down a path, or you've gone down a path that isn't right for you, if you meet that arbitrary goal or that destination, I think the feeling of being really fulfilled, which is a word that I keep using, I think it will diminish quite quickly because it wasn't really you.
Yeah.
You're like, I did this and I did get a sense of achievement. I'm not saying you won't, but it's away from what that individual wants. And as I get older, I'm trying to become more self-aware of myself and to what I really want in my life and my career, and also maybe what the people around me want. And as I go deeper into psychology now, is really thinking about the person in front of me and supporting them navigate their journey a bit. Doesn't mean that we can't give advice and support and stuff like that, but I think you get the most value once you understand the person. If you help the person understand themselves, then they can go down a path that's more aligned for them. If I'm mentoring someone, it's not about me. It's not about my ego and what I want and my values. It's about their values and what they want. So very early on in the mentoring, as we did, it's like, I want to understand your values. What's important to you? That's what I give a shit about. It's not about my values. Otherwise, I'm just trying to influence you to be like me. Maybe because my ego or my insecurity. And maybe you might come on board with me because maybe, this is not you directly, but someone else, maybe because they lack self-worth and they lack confidence. So they just go, I'll do what that person thinks I should do.
Yeah.
So we've got a self-worth issue and we've got the person being the dictator, maybe from an ego perspective, or maybe just some insecurities. Like, I need people to come into my camp. You go into their camp, you come into my camps. Now, you be you, and then you'll find the right people.
Yeah.
You know, you and me have come together as a partnership and a friendship because we're ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're who we want to be around each other. If you were trying to act in a certain way, you'd be, fucking hell, I can't spend much time with James because I've just got to act to be someone that I'm not.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And we know when we're who we want to be and we're our authentic selves, God, we have a lot more energy. We feel so, and when we get validated through, not only seek validation, but we get some sort of feedback from the environment by being us, that only boosts our self-worth, that only builds our self-esteem and confidence. That's so important.
Especially in a relationship where you've, say, maybe got someone who's more of a dictator. If you open up to them and they're not prepared to give in any way to maybe something this isn't quite working for me, and then sort of drift apart. That's an interesting thing for both of you, isn't it? Because if you've been drawn in because of your lack of self-worth and you're doing the same things, and then you decide that actually, do you know what, this doesn't quite align with me, and that leads you to drift apart. First of all, maybe then the relationship just wasn't built on that strong foundations anyway. But second of all, if you're both moving away from each other, I do wonder sort of like, was the person who was being a dictator only wanting people around them for their ego and insecurity, and you were only there looking for self-worth? But once you strip that away, there's actually not much of a relationship there at all. Because you could also go the other way, where actually, do you know what? We do want different things, but we're still really good friends. Our friendship's still based on really good sound values. It's just, in this particular area, we're going in different paths. And I think that's quite important, isn't it? When you think of like friends from school, for instance, or friendship groups, inevitably you drift apart. Well, you drift apart, maybe you spend less time together because maybe you have different paths to go down. But if you've still got those values and loyalty there, it doesn't mean you still can't have a relationship.
I mean, this is really important, the word relationships that you say, because this can work for friendships, family members, romantic partners, clients, mentees. It's all some sort of relationships. And kind of what we're saying there is almost, we can see these codependent relationships where you might have the one, and in codependent relationships, both people get a need met.
Yeah.
There's a reason there's a relationship, there's a need met. And what I was talking about, I think essentially was alluding to a codependent relationship. You know, one person gets in me met by going, you need to be like me, you need my validation, you need me to give you an opinion and some guidance, and then you'd be like, yeah, I do, Dan, yeah, I do, James, yeah, please give me some validation, give me that. So you can't be you're just trying to get some opinion and validation from me, and I'm saying that's what you need. Yeah. That's a very codependent relationship, rather than you going, this is who I am, here's my foundational needs, and I'm like, this is who I am, we're both secure in ourselves. Two secure people will be like that latter example that you used.
Yeah.
We've got this and this is great thing about the relationship, but actually we're a bit different here. That's okay. Two insecure people will go, well, you should be like me, and the other person's like, yeah, okay, I'll be like you. We've seen that in our local environment, haven't we? Where you see these codependent relationships all the time, and they come from ultimately some sense of insecurity. Yeah. They've got the same drivers. Ironically, both people have the same drivers. It's a sense of that insecure attachment. I won't go down that rabbit hole too much today, but when we have that insecure attachment, we either want people to validate us or we're looking for people to be like us. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I always think there's always an issue as well if you only look up to one person. Because if you only look up to one person, that person's going to be on a pedestal, and then it's almost like you think that person's got all the answers to everything. Even if they've got good answers in one area, none of us have all the answers to everything.
It's like having one set of purpose, isn't it? They say the most unhealthiest thing you can do is either try and get one answer from 1,000 different people, or all the answers from one person. And you go, ideally, you'd have different people for different areas. Yeah. So if I want to know a little bit more about football, I might chat to you, mate. You know, and if I want to know more about
good knowledge,
technology, I'll speak to Eddie. You know, you've got different people in your life who have different expertise and skills. Some people I might chat to about relationships. Some people might chat to about football, whatever. Different things that I'm interested in. But not one person can give you. You can't give me all my as a mate. You can't give me all the answers.
I probably could, but I won't.
Most of them, mate.
The vast majority.
Jay Shetty talks a lot about this. Anyone who's followed Jay Shetty's work, he talks a lot about relationships, and different relationships offer you different things.
Yeah, of course.
So as you're saying, don't try and get everything from one person.
Definitely don't.
Because it doesn't matter who the fuck they are, they can't. So you need to have good people around you in your life, and this is a really key point to that actually, is be very aware of your social environment. Now we know it's one of the most oldest cliche personal development quotes. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but there is some sense to that, and it is acknowledging your environment, acknowledging who you spend time with, acknowledging that they will influence you, and being clear on that and self-aware enough to go, cool, that's the path I'm going down. Is that right for me? And being brave enough and honest enough to go, yes, but maybe I don't want to quite go down that path, or actually that's the wrong path for me. It's fucking difficult, mate. It's uncomfortable. That might mean some people listening going, shit, I've got a codependent relationship. That's a romantic relationship. Bring yourself out of that would be one of the toughest things to do, but very important for your mental and emotional well-being. So it's values again. If you value your mental and emotional health, which I'm sure we do, you've got to be brave enough to make the right decisions. And ultimately, in some shape or form, that will involve some sort of change. Because if you're not changing something in your life, what you're saying, it's all perfect. I fucking nailed it, Dan. Completed it. Well, you haven't, James. Even though I like to think I have. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, I've got a couple of bits to come back there on. So the first one was, I like the idea of, if you have a company, right, and you like we have to do, you have to outsource things. So we have accountants, we have solicitors, we have cleaners, we have I'm fucking missing someone else. Oh, technical people. Yeah. The one thing I fucking need more than anything, actually. Yeah. So that's outsourcing to people who are better in those areas than us. They have the capability, they have the systems in place. Well, that's like the people that you look up to. You need to look up for people to different areas. You need to outsource certain things. So there's, like you said, there's certain conversations I'll have with certain people that I won't have with others. And there'll be people that are able to offer me advice. That's what clients are brilliant for as well. You know, we've got such a network of people that are successful, and I have in such a wide different variety of areas. So that's the wrong way around that fucking sentence, but you know what I mean? So I've got a lot of people that I can draw information from, but I'm going to draw information from the right people. If I've got a successful business person, well, I'm going to fucking talk to them about business. If I've got a person who works in insurance, I'm going to talk to them about insurance. You know, you're going to talk to people about what either they're passionate about, so it could be hobbies and things they're really passionate about, or it could be what their profession is. You might have a tradesperson who you want to get around and have to look at something. So it's not like you want your roof fitting, so you phone me because I won't be able to fucking help you out. And then you want your computer fixed, so you phone me. And I'm trying to give sort of an analogy for what you're doing. If every bit of advice you go for the same person, you're, first of all, that person is doing you a disservice unless they are saying, look, this isn't my area, but if you just want to bounce some ideas off. But go and speak to people for what they can offer you. That's not using them, that's leveraging them for their knowledge in something they can help with. Because I know for me, if people ask me, if people want advice in something like fitness, that's actually a nice feeling, isn't it? To be able to offer advice and be able to help someone. If someone says, I really want some help, are you able to give me some advice here? That's just a nice feeling, and something, if you're passionate about what you do, you're more than happy to offer. Different to offering advice when it's not asked for.
Yeah,
that's a very different thing.
Unsolicited advice is for anyone.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how much you want to learn about a subject as well. So if I've got a subject I want to learn a lot about, let's say relationship psychology or whatever, I won't just learn it from one person. I want to get it from different sources. So I might ask a couple of mates they'll just give me their perspectives, because if I ask one of my mates on something, it is their lens. Yeah. So I'll go, well, actually, this is a problem I'm having. I'm interested in what a few people think, or something I really want to learn about. I'm interested in what a few people think, rather than just the lady who runs my psychology course. Like, great, she's going to give me her perspective and a lot of that science, but also maybe I'll go and read some books and hear it from another perspective, or listen to a podcast and hear it from another perspective. Then my knowledge base is really growing because it's something I really care about. Now, can we do that with everything? No, like, I don't give a fuck about technology, and neither do you really, mate. No. So we'll happily leverage that out. I don't want to get that much more.
Eddie knows everything as far as we're concerned.
If I can work my iPhone, which I struggle, sometimes that's difficult for me, and I fuck that up all the time.
You sent me an email the other day, and it was all different fonts.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All different
That's because I copied and pasted it from my notes. Yeah. That's a classic example. That's what you expect from me, mate. So
I know you copy and pasted stuff, but
But see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't give it. I mean,
no, I don't care about it. It's just an example.
But it's an example, isn't it? So, but things that I'm really passionate about and I want to be good at, then I'm going to get as much different perspectives as possible, because it keeps me open-minded, allows me to grow and learn a lot more about that subject.
And I think to draw that back to the purpose and the goal setting, that's why it's important to understand, first of all, what you want from something, not what everyone else wants from it. Because a coach should be there to enable them to enable the client to move towards the thing that they want to move towards, not to influence you to move towards the thing that the coach thinks you should be doing. And that's two very, very different things. If someone comes in and says, look, I just want to lose weight, I want a bit of muscle, let's use fucking 90% of people, they want to look a bit better when they go on summer holiday, then it's our job to make that as easy and as seamless as possible. There's going to be some hard work involved, and there's going to be some changes. It brings me back to change. I'll come back to that in a second, actually. But it's not on us to say, I know you said you just wanted to come to me to look a bit better. General population client, you just want to look a bit better on the beach, but I think you should do a photo shoot and get to 5% body fat. That's not for us to do. Now, as you move along, people's goals sometimes change. Actually, they really get into it and they fucking love it. And they're like, actually, do you know what? I want to push a little bit further. And if they come to you with that, that's a completely different kettle of fish. But it's not up to us to push down into that position because we want some professional photos for Instagram, or because we feel that everyone should be doing that, or we feel that everyone should have this challenge in order to be a better person. It's not about that. That doesn't mean that people, including us, our purposes and thoughts and things, they manoeuvre and change as we grow and mature and experience more, but that should come internally or intrinsically, rather than us as coaches pushing what we think people should be doing.
Well, we can do that because obviously we're keeping people in our little world as well. So, and if you let clients grow and develop and think through things. I've got a client who really wants to get really geeky in mechanics.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not really geeky in mechanics, so she was better off going with another coach to get really geeky in the mechanics, exercise mechanics side of things, because that wasn't my skill set. So by letting her grow and flourish and listening to her, it's like, yeah, great, you go down that path. That's fine. If that had happened to me 10 years ago, that would have triggered the fuck out of my ego.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, that's fine. If anything, that's better for you right now. But also a real key point around coaching, our career, and maybe our life, is that when we are going down a path that we think we should, based upon what other people have told us, what our parents have told us, what the school has told us, what society has told us, people get to this existential crisis where they have no purpose. They might get to a certain place in their career or a certain financial place, or maybe they get the family and the kids, and they hit a rock. Sometimes people call it like a midlife crisis, because there's no purpose anymore. They've reached the goal they set themselves of the house and the car and the kids and the family, and they're like, What now? People have that in their career. They go for their career for the first few years, feel quite motivated, feel quite inspired. And I speak to so many coaches who are maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years in, and you see them, they've lacked motivation. They don't know what they're doing. They're doing a lot of hours, but they're not that happy. They're not that fulfilled. They've lost sight of their purpose, or they've never really navigated it. That's okay, but then you have to spend some time navigating that purpose. Because once you see that, that's something that fuel you, hopefully for life almost. Like, if you love learning, you can keep learning until the day that you die. If you are really passionate about your family, then and your friends, you can have those networks till the day that you die. You can keep going there. Once you lose sight of those things and you lose engagement in those things, you're more likely to hit this career crisis or just general existential life crisis. And I've seen it so many times.
I'm just going to bring you back to change because I made a note about it. So you said obviously change, but what about change for change's sake? Because I think again, like we said at the start, there's contradictions everywhere, right? And we talk about change being a good thing. But what if you're changing something just for the sake of changing something because you think change is good?
Yeah.
So it's got to come from a place, doesn't it, where you... Because if all your needs are being met and you're feeling fulfilled, do you need to change? I think of change as different to grow as well, because grow and change, I think, are different things.
Yeah, so I suppose... I think to grow we need some sort of change. It's got to change. So if I'm going to
grow, so you're almost thinking like a growth could be changed.
I've got to really. Yeah. Like if I'm going to grow and develop, I've got to change it. I've got to change some beliefs. I've got to change some of my perceptions. I've got to change. If I want to grow and do something I do in the gym, I've got to make some little micro changes or whatever. There's always some sort of change in behaviours to develop in some shape or form if we're trying to develop. But if we're happy and content in an area, brilliant. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's not always like we always need to change everything about our lives. Bloody hell, that'd be stressful as well.
And that's just the point I wanted to make, because it's like, yes...
I think everything worse. And like, I've got plenty of it. If I've got parts... A, don't change everything all in one go.
Yeah.
And B, if you have got a lot of life changes in one go, it's fucking difficult to navigate. Have some stability and go, you know what, I'm really content with training right now. Don't think you've got to be getting PBs each week. You might go, I'm happy with my physique, happy with my training. Great, just keep it going. You're happy with your nutrition. Brilliant. But at least reflect and ask yourself the question. The issue is when someone says, I want this over here.
Yeah.
I want this growth and development in business, in relationships, with my health, with my training, but there's no change. There's no change in their actions. It's definitely some insanity, isn't it? I've said it before, it's just expecting different results and doing the same shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, change for change's sake, disaster. You'll be stressed and bouncing about left, right and centre. But I see growth, we need to sort of change in some shape or form for growth.
It's in terms of that changing the situation thing. I don't think people think, oh, right, I am happy and content, but change is good, so I'm just going to change. It's like, well, it needs to be more thought out than that. And like we said at the start, there's always these little, what they feel like they're not, but they feel like contradictions, where it's like, well, yeah, change is good, but don't change if actually you're fulfilled. It's always, there's so much more nuance. And really, in any intelligent conversation, certainly from, no, I'm saying we're intelligent, although we fucking are, mate.
Yeah, in my world. Yeah. In my belief system, mate.
My ego says I'm fucking intelligent.
Yeah. My mum says I am. Thanks, Mum.
That's all it is. That's all it is. External validation from the people who are very, very fucking biased.
Mum, can you big me up a little bit again? Feel a bit low in confidence.
Put it on loudspeaker on the podcast.
Intelligent, handsome.
It's fucking clever.
I'm like, brilliant.
Clever.
Thanks, Mum.
But it is that idea around, you don't need to change if you're happy and content in an area. Like you say, I think if you consider that growth as some sort of change, but I mean in terms of changing your situation, don't change for the sake of it. Change if you feel you need to, if you're in the wrong area, or if relationships aren't fulfilling. I've seen lots of people maybe stay with coaches just because they're worried about change and things like that. But yeah, like most things, there's more nuance. Oh, that's where I was going before I was calling us fucking intelligent. Was when you see intelligent people, ironically, yeah. I lost
my train of thought before I said fucking intelligent.
I lost my train of thought.
Fucking irony there, mate.
Isn't it? So when I was talking about intelligence, when you see two people having an intelligent conversation about anything, there's always nuance to what they say. They have a belief, they have a philosophy, it's normally backed up with some data or rationale, but they are always open to the nuance of different perspectives. And I think that's always important with coaches, is that we have to be nuanced within our thinking, and we can't think of things as black or white, because very, very few things in this world are black or white. Like certain things within mechanics, you might say the laws of physics are the law of physics, but even then how you apply it and things is nuanced based on each individual person. So it's really important that you understand conversations and nuanced and subjects and nuance. It's much easier, as you said earlier, to think right or wrong, black or white, but actually in almost every situation I can think of, there's going to be nuance there. What one person might need to change in order to put themselves in a better position, one person actually might be better off being where they are. So,
yeah, and change sometimes, mate, as well.
Yeah.
Hasn't always got to be something big.
No.
Like, it can be something really small. Like, sometimes we don't see the benefits of really small changes. It can be the tiniest little things. It might be like you mentioned the other day in a podcast about monitoring your fibre a little bit more. You just get an extra couple of grams of fibre a day, maybe over the next 12 months might make a difference. So it's a small thing, a small daily thing. So that's another way to think about change.
Yeah.
I want to link into what you're saying there about sort of being open, this kind of beliefs theme again coming out. I mean, you're really into your history, and you've seen, haven't you, the stuff that you've read and watched, is that some of these beliefs we have around history, about history happened like this.
We're talking about Graham Hancock.
But you know, I think this is a good example.
It is a really good example
of how history it was like this.
Yeah.
This is pretty much fact. You know, like, he's come in to go, you know what you think you believe, mate?
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge that. That's a really good example. Graham Hancock, of course, is a very good thinker.
Yeah, very
but these are fucking ingrained beliefs, mate.
Yeah.
These aren't like, these are, most people would believe a certain thing around history.
Yeah.
And most people haven't, I mean, I heard about Graham Hancock through you.
Yeah.
But you hear someone, and you've listened to stuff and read his stuff far more than me, but just from what I've picked up, I love his way of thinking.
Yeah.
And he's challenging fucking something that people are really ingrained with.
Yeah.
So surely if he can do that,
Yeah.
what's to say our fucking beliefs are about anything?
He's actually a brilliant
I think
example.
he's a great example, mate.
Because actually, if anyone doesn't know who he is, he was I found him through Joe Rogan. We wrote Fingerprints of the Gods in the mid-90s. The thing I really like about him, obviously he's very intelligent. I mean, if you've ever seen him on Joe Rogan, he did exactly what I just didn't fucking do, where I lost my chain of fucking thought. But it's...
Seriously, what is he like, just a historian?
He was a journalist initially. He was a current affairs journalist, and then I think it was the pyramids that inspired him, and he just thought there's fucking more to this. And then a geologist called Robert Schoch did some work on the Sphinx, and then I think he's just gone off and investigated stuff, and it's become a real passion of his. The thing that I love most about Graham Hancock is that he doesn't say he's right. What he says is, I'm not sure they're right based on the information that I've collected and the data that I've seen. And this comes from scientists such as geologists, and he works with a guy called Randall Carlson as well. He's not saying he's right. He's saying, I'm not sure they're right. And this is the information and the data and the evidence that I have that suggests I think actually civilization could be older, there'd be a cataclysm and all this stuff. You can get to the specifics if you want. And this is the narrative that I found that goes with my evidence, and here it goes. The problem is that the mainstream just shuts him down. And some of the evidence, if you watch Netflix stuff, is like, well, that seems pretty legit to me. Now, I'm not intelligent enough. But my point is, I love the fact he's not saying, I'm right, this is what happened, you're wrong. He's just saying, actually, I found evidence that contradicts what the mainstream is saying. And I think that's a really great way of thinking. Even if you find something different, you have a different way of doing it, not being certain that you're right, but just saying, actually, I found things that I think point in a different direction. I think there's humility around that as well as intelligence. And also, I mean, for him doing it and I suppose actually this comes across into coaches as well. He's had to be brave at times because he's had a lot of stuff thrown at him. And, you know, I'm guessing any time you go up against the mainstream thought, if you put something that goes up against the mainstream thought onto social media about health and fitness, I'm guessing you're going to get a lot of shit thrown at you and called out a lot of the time. And actually, if you're pretty confident in the evidence you found shows you a certain way, then it takes quite a lot of bravery to continue to push forward with that. As long as you have got the stuff to back it up, that's the other point as well. You know, so it's not just throwing stuff, random shit.
He's put thought into it. What he hasn't done is looked at somebody else and gone, oh, they've got some answers. I'm just going to use their narrative. He's gone away and studied it and come up with an educated point of view. Yeah, and I suppose this is why we can't know anything about everything. Can we?
Absolutely.
Personal trainers really know so much about nutrition. Yeah, and that's changed and developed a lot in the last 10 years. So what we think we know now, that might change a lot in the next 10 years. It probably will be changes in the next 10 years. It's just been open to that. It's not because we'll be confident about what we know now, but just go, this is what we know now, and I'm going to apply it to the best of my current knowledge. but maybe my knowledge will be different and grow in 10 years' time, which we said a few times today. But I think it's really important to just be a bit more critical in your actions and behaviours, and be a bit more critical in your thought processing. And that's been probably quite a narrative in quite a few other podcasts, I think.
History is a good one as well, because history is always told by the winners, or whatever the history was. So you only get one perspective of it.
Yeah.
You don't get the other side's perspective. It's only the winners that tell you the story. So you think you have this factual information that is exactly how it was, and in reality we don't fucking know. But so you see a lot with history, especially when you're studying history, it's that you try and gain different perspectives from all sides of any situation to try and get an all-round view, which could be completely different from one side to the other. So that is actually a really good example for just ensuring that you're constantly maybe updating. This is why courses are so important. Even when you think you've got something nailed, if you haven't done a nutrition course for 10 years, maybe it's worth digging into some stuff if that's where you want to go. Or don't just go, I did a nutrition course 10 years ago, I'm fucking done. You have to be open and honest, don't you? Be like, maybe if you don't want to do another one, then you say, look, this is from 10 years ago. There's some stuff that's probably not going to change, but there's some stuff that they're going to find that is different. And be open and honest with that. And don't think because you did one course in a moment in time that for the next 40 years, you never need to touch nutrition again, because you will get behind. That doesn't matter as long as you're aware of that. And so you can say, look, this is what I learned at the time. I keep in, like I do now, I sort of dip in and out. I might do another nutrition course at some point. But I'm aware if someone's coming through MNU now, that's going to be there's going to be some different stuff in there and definitely some different application to my last nutrition course, which was 2015, 2016. It's going to be different, and that's only in 8 years. So again, we have to just be open and honest about that and be humble that things are going to change. And if it is an area that you want to be a specialist in, and it's an area you want to go down into, you're going to have to constantly be taking in new information, because in any area, be it psychology or mechanics or nutrition or stress or sleep or whatever, there's going to be constant new information coming out. And if that's going to be your field that you really want to work in, you're going to have to be constantly updating forever.
And linking that into a podcast today, if you have got a subject or an area that really does give you that fulfillment, something you really care about, that's worth putting energy in and getting different perspectives and investing in it.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, I know a little bit of that and that's enough, then you just put your hands up and go, right, I've got a fair amount of knowledge here, but let's say supplements, for example. I haven't researched supplements for a little while now, because I just haven't, because I've just been researching other things. So I'll go, look, based upon my last current research and supplements, this is what I know, but it was a little while ago, and things might have changed a little bit in the supplement world, just as an example because we can't stay on top of everything. But then again, as everyone knows listening, I love my psychology and behaviour change, so I'm going to keep investing in that, because that gives me that purpose and that fulfilment. So it's important to ask yourself the questions.
If you went 15 years without going on a course, and you were still, psychology was your thing, it's your passion, your communication, that's your passion, and you worked for 15 years, never do another, because you're obviously on a course at the moment. If you went 15 years after this course and still said, yeah, I'm still bang up to date, well, you're not.
Yeah.
So you've got to be open and honest with that. You see it in the medical world, actually. You see it, I've seen it with osteos and physios, I've seen it, I had a story once about surgeons, actually. There's surgeons that haven't been on a course, any study for like 25 years. And you think about medicine and surgery, how much that updates on such a regular basis. If you're quarter of a century out of date, if I was 25 years out of date in nutrition, fucking hell, I'd only been about 8, so fuck knows what was going on at the time, but I wouldn't be thinking about the things I'm thinking now. So it's really important that once you do find your purpose and the thing that you're passionate about and that you really want to educate or coach others on, then it really is your responsibility to stay up to date in that given area. But as James said, you can't stay up to date in every area. There's just not fucking hours in the day.
There's not, and it's just knowing where to put your energy and focus. And just, I think really, trying to sum up today, it's like, it is thinking, time is limited. Where do I want to put my energy and focus a lot? So, I enjoy my football, so we're going to go out and watch the England game tomorrow because I enjoy that, enjoy social, enjoy having a couple of beers. So that's good use of my time on a Friday night. If I didn't give a shit about football and I was hanging about with a group of tossers, then how good use of my time would that be? Probably not very good. I'd probably think I'm really not enjoying this.
Probably what Pat's thinking about tomorrow.
Probably what a mate's thinking about tomorrow. I'm just hanging out with a group of tossers and I don't even like football. Fair enough, mate. But do you know what I mean? Just analysing your behaviours throughout the week and just going, what is that bringing me intrinsically, like emotionally? Am I getting something out of it? And if I'm not, why? Is there am I out of a line somewhere? Am I not being congruent, which is a word that I've used lots of times before? When we're not congruent, we can feel it in our souls, I think. I think we know deep down, and just whether it's with a friendship, whether it's with who I'm spending time with or what I'm learning, you just think, because you're always sort of chasing, rather than going, I'm content, I'm happy with what I'm learning, I'm happy with the path that I'm on, I'm happy to go down different paths if my values change or my sense of purpose changes. But it's just questioning, how am I feeling? What's missing? And then often there is things missing. Maybe it's what we're studying, maybe it's what we're doing for work, or how we're doing our job. How do we want to deliver our job? Like, I've changed how I personal train now because it gives me more purpose and fulfillment. If I still did the same way of coaching 15 years ago, I would be really bored now. I wouldn't be fulfilled. I would probably be lacking that excitement and motivation. But as I've grown and developed and kept educating, I've probably got even more fulfillment actually with how I coach now than what I did then. And that's 15 years later. But I've had to put a lot of energy, effort and work into that. And as you say, going on courses and learning, probably up there from a coaching perspective, one of the best ways to keep that enjoyment and excitement in your career, as long as it's right for you and you're not just doing it because everyone else in your gym's doing it.
That's important as well. And I think, so to start, my summing up of today would be, actually I'll do it a different way, to ask yourself a few questions and to go, do you know what your purpose is? Have you thought about it? And if not, can you think about it? And then start to say, do your current behaviours align, or are they congruent with the direction that you want to go in and the things that you're passionate about? If we're talking professional here, are you a coach in the area you want to be a coach in? If the answer is I don't know yet, that's fine, because if you're a young coach, as James has mentioned a few times, you're going to have to try a few different things to really understand what you're passionate about. Really, it's through experience that we're going to understand what we're passionate about. But if you have tried a few things, are you being drawn down into something that is just the way that people in your gym or the most successful trainer in your gym thinks and feels and works? Or is that really what you want to be doing? And that's a question to ask yourself. And the only person that can find the answer to that is you.
Yeah.
And then once you find that, can you seek out moving into that direction, be it the right courses, or reach out from outside your bubble and start to work in some directions you want to work into? But that takes a bit of moment. That takes stopping for half an hour, and just giving it a bit of thought and thinking, where do I see my career going? What bits of PT do I enjoy? Is there a bit that I'm like, I fucking love that? And that's a bit boring, but whatever.
But also you can align your life purposes with your career purposes as well. You can get them to be congruent. And I mentioned earlier about just getting a bit of paper and just writing down all the things that you care about. It's a starting point, at least. It's a place to start. And another point that I made today was remembering that when you're on your own path, it won't always be comfortable. It might mean changing some friend networks. It might be changing relationships, changing where you work or how you work. That will inevitably be uncomfortable. But to get fulfillment in life, you're going to have some discomfort that goes along with that. If you're always doing things that make you feel good in life, you'll constantly be changing paths to make you feel good and comfortable. Because I go to another group or another tribe as such, but I'll lack fulfillment. I won't really be like have this sense of meaning and joy. And it's not something I really deeply care about. It's just I'm doing it to make myself feel comfortable in the moment. It's disassociating that. It takes a bit of emotional intelligence and a bit of self-awareness, because it's easy to base your behaviours around what other people find important. Really easy. And we have to just question that. And that's been a big theme of today, is stopping, questioning. Am I doing this because other people find it important? Or am I doing it because it's important to me? And that is a process that takes time.
Will we go through it on the seminar?
What purpose? No, but we will be talking a lot more about communication, and a big part of communication is self-awareness. So there will be some self-reflection, self-awareness part of communication, because we're helping our clients navigate answers a bit better. So yes, but not specifically around purpose. But there will be the second part, won't it, of the seminar, and the first part is mechanics stuff.
James's answer to that was yeah, but no.
Just to be honest,
sort of. Yeah. But there's things we can delve down into. Plus, if you want to hear more about it, just let us know.
Let us know, we can happily talk all day about this.
Remember, on our link tree on our PT Education page and mine and yours. You can start to register your interest for the seminars which are going to start next year.
Yours Dan Green at TWPT, is that yours?
Dan Green at Very Intelligent TWPT, I think it is.
Very Intelligent.
I lose my chain of thought halfway through it again. I can't believe I lost my chain of thought.
Just at that moment, that's just the best moment, mate.
It's just the reality.
Yeah.
You're telling yourself, not that I think I'm very intelligent, by the way, but just when you get that, just to prove that I wasn't in that moment.
It went really well.
I think you're saying you're intelligent, mate. I'm really intelligent. And that's cool, guys. So are we on an interview next week?
Yes.
What day? Friday? Thursday interview?
Yep.
Cool. So this will be out today / tomorrow, because it's always a different day in it, but next week will be out as normal. But next week is an interview, but that'll be out as normal on the Friday. Right, guys, we will catch you then.